You're on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tuan Dean. I am one of the I'm one of the faculty members here in the CTE. Today, we're going to be talking about AI, the conversation of the semester, or how AI is being used in the classroom, how AI is going to be used in our teaching and learning, how our students are using it, what things that we can learn from it to actually improve our strategies in teaching and philosophies in the classroom. For today's program, we're looking and talking about in our short discussion AI to assess students' understanding. How can we use it to assess students' understanding? How can we use it to better our students' understanding of the subject and or disciplines that we're teaching? So what we want you to do is think of two takeaway questions that at the end of the presentation to talk about what you would learn from it or what you've learned from it and things that you would take from this webinar and how you would use it in the classroom as well too. Without further ado, let's get started with our video.
Jean Vandernet, Executive Director of the Center for Innovation and Research on Teaching at Grand Canyon University. I'd like you to take a moment and think about the learning objectives in your course. What is it that you want students to know or do in your course? If you're like most faculty, when you start thinking about this issue, we want students to understand. We want them to critically think. We want them to analyze concepts, to synthesize the research in our disciplines. At the heart of all of this, we want students to think. And so we design assessments to try to gauge that. If we want them to reflect on their experiences, we might make an assignment that asks them to write a journal, applying those course concepts to their own lives. Or perhaps we'll pick out a current event and ask them to critically analyze concepts and theories from our discipline as it applies to that current event. Or if the emphasis is on synthesis, we might ask them to do a literature review, bringing together research from the field into a common theme to show the trends and the gaps and the weaknesses in what we know. The thing that all of these things share in common is that the assessments rely on students' ability to write. And even though the majority of our learning objectives tend to focus on how students think and the cognitive processes, the way they interact with our discipline, our assignments by nature often ask them to communicate that to us in a written format, which means we have a problem. Our ability to assess students' understanding also relies on students' ability to write or confound it. Now, this isn't always the case. There are alternative assessments, but the reality of higher education is that it has evolved into a collective experience. And we have to think about how can we assess student understanding when there's one of us and there's a lot of them. So over time, as education has become more available to more students, a lot of our assessments have turned into demonstrate your understanding in writing, demonstrate critical thinking in writing. Almost everything we're asking students to do to demonstrate those learning objectives tends to get boiled down to writing. And while writing is sometimes important in our disciplines, we don't want to dismiss that in many cases we care about students' ability to write. We often are really wanting to focus on thinking, because written assessments have a lot of challenges, and these challenges are well documented in the literature. Students who are not native speakers may have more trouble communicating their understanding, and sometimes people that are just better in writing tend to look like they know more, and they get higher grades. Not because they've actually mastered our learning objectives at a higher level, but because they can communicate more effectively to let us know what they do know. And our assignments tend to limit the way they're thinking so that they're aligning to our expectations, to the assignment guidelines. It's no surprise that students are going to focus their time and attention on the things that we grade. And so they're going to think about what they know in relationship to how we are asking them to communicate it, more than just really doing a deep dive into what they know. And because students are so focused on grades, there's always the concern with plagiarism, that the writing we're seeing right now from students may not be the student's own writing. And that issue, that last one, the plagiarism issue, has become even more heightened with the emergence of artificial intelligence. When AI became widely available, one of the biggest concerns in higher education is, how do we know students are the ones actually producing these written artifacts? Today, I would actually like you to flip around your thinking a little bit. Yes, students absolutely could use AI to produce the traditional written assessments that we ask them to produce. But what if, instead of fighting against AI, we actually embrace it and think about, with all the different AI tools that are available today, from ChatGPT to Bard to Bing, more tools that are emerging on a daily basis. How about instead of fighting students' use of them, we embrace it? AI gives us an opportunity we have not had in modern higher education. The ability to actually see right what they're thinking, how they're interacting, how they're documenting and understanding right in front of us as they adapt, as they respond, as they adjust. I mean, if we think about it, at the core of education, going back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, education has always been social experience. Back in the days of the early philosophers, the faculty members would actually assess a student's understanding by talking to them, interacting with them, asking them questions. That's where the Socratic method got its name. That's how we measured, do students understand? Can they talk about it? Can they interact with it? Can they pivot? Can they think? Can they adjust? And then as time went on and education started to evolve, we had to start thinking of ways that we could assess student learning that were amenable when there was one faculty member and a lot of students. And so all of those dialogues and those social interactions started to get put into a written format, because that was something we could handle, we could document, we could look at, and it worked in a collective environment where there was one faculty member and a lot of students. AI is now challenging that. It's giving us opportunities that we have not had in modern higher education. And we have the possibility now to start to untangle students' actual thinking from their ability to share that thinking in writing. And that's what I want to talk about today. I really just want to get you brainstorming and thinking about, how can you tap into the potential of AI to assess student learning in a completely different way, and one that is not reliant on students' written communication. Again, I want to highlight, if your learning objective has to do with written communication and a student's ability to write, this is not going to be the assignment for you. But in many cases, we want to gauge how they're thinking. Can they adapt and adjust and reflect and pivot to show a true integrated understanding of our course concepts? And so I'm just going to share with you a few ideas. Again, I want to get the ball rolling. In no way, shape, or form are these all the possibilities that are available to you, but it would be something you can start with. How can you take these ideas and adapt them and tweak them to really start to embrace AI to assess students' thinking? So the first idea is just a problem-solving dialogue. And this really does rest on conversational analysis. In an ideal world, imagine if you could just sit down with your student and say, I'm going to give you this problem. Let's talk about it. I want you to share your ideas. I want to reflect on those ideas. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to follow up with other ideas. And I just want to go back and forth, and I want to see if you understand the material. Now, if we don't have very many students, we could actually just do that. And oral assessments are not new. In a small enough class and in the right environment, we can do an oral assessment. AI lets us do this with larger classes. So now you can actually tell your students, I want you to go to whichever generative AI program it is that you prefer, Bard, Bing, ChatGPT. It doesn't really matter the AI program. And you could start students with prompt and tell students, I want you to interact. And you're going to start with this prompt. And it could be a problem, it could be a hypothetical situation, it could be a challenge that they're facing right now in your discipline. Tell students, here's the question you're going to start with. And I just want you to interact and go back and forth. Now, to set up that AI interaction, you're going to want to tell the generative AI what you're doing. So you would say, I want you to simulate a dialogue with this student that allows them to show their understanding, to pivot, to interact, to answer questions, and to adjust in a conversational manner. Tell AI that, and then pose the problem. Now, when you're assigning this to students, you're simply going to give students that big prompt. And you're going to say, here's the prompt that's going to set the stage for that generative AI program. And then here's the question that you're going to kick off the dialogue with. And then, rather than having students write about their experience, you can simply have them copy and paste the dialogue. Or if you're in ChatGPT, there's a little button that you can say, share this chat, and they can submit the chat. And now you can look through and see, were there questions? How did they respond? Were they accurate in their understanding? You can assess the ongoing dialogue. Another idea is just using AI for concept mapping. Oftentimes in psychology, that's my discipline, I want to see if students understand how the different ideas and theories connect together. And historically, we had them do a literature review. I asked them, go out and get the literature, bring it together, organize it by themes, and write it up. Well, as we've already discussed, those that are good writers are probably going to do this task much more effectively than those that aren't. Concept mapping focuses on the same cognitive task. Can you bring all these different pieces of information together and organize them by themes so that you can see where are the gaps, where are the trends, what is happening? So again, you can set up an AI prompt that says, ask me the questions to help assemble how we can see the trends and themes that are emerging. For the output, you could possibly have students submit the final concept map, or you could even have them submit the dialogue, the prompts that they use, the themes that they enter, or even both. Goal is, can you see how students are connecting information and how they're bringing that together? A similar idea is using simulated scenarios. This is kind of like a modified case study where you say, here is a situation, and you would give generative AI that entire scenario. And it'll take pretty decent chunks. Or if that scenario exists somewhere on the internet, you can even point the artificial intelligence to the link or the video where that might exist. And then you say, here's a scenario. Challenge the students, walk them through. What would they need to know to analyze this? Ask them questions and adjust your follow-up questions based on their answers. So you would put all of that into that initial prompt. And then you give that initial prompt to students and say, I want you to interact. You can even tell them in advance, we'll learn what you can learn about this. Have your textbook available in front of you. Use your notes. Have the internet. I want to see, can you bring this information together in a true, real, applied way to analyze and understand this scenario? Simulated scenarios work best when there's not a clear answer, when there's shades of gray, when there's lots of possibilities. Because now the AI can continue to say, well, if we did this, here's what might happen, how would you respond? Or what other possibilities might be out there? The other thing to keep in mind as you're doing these kinds of AI-assisted assignments is as students are doing the assignment, you as the instructor can be looking at their output to learn, how do I adjust it for the future? So if you start doing a simulation like this or a modified case study, and you're like, wow, AI just didn't dive into the types of questions that I was wanting, you're going to want to go back to your prompt and adjust your prompt to say, here are examples of the types of questions that I would like you to ask. Here are examples of the types of responses. The more information you can provide in the prompt that's going to kick students off, the more that AI is going to be able to simulate that kind of interaction that you're hoping for to do a deep dive into the student understanding. And another possibility is just using AI as a sounding board. I often call this their brainstorming partner. And I'll tell students, we're going to start with this topic. And I want you to just sit down in front of the AI, and I want you to start by saying, here's the topic we're investigating. Here's what I already know about it. Here's what I'm comfortable and confident with. Here are some things that I'm less confident with. Let's talk about them and see if we can clarify my understanding. And then I want you to ask me questions. And as I answer your questions, if I'm right, let me know I'm right. And if I'm not right, give me feedback and keep asking me questions until I'm right. The sounding board assignment works best as a formative assignment, not to necessarily assess their final understanding of the content, but to help clarify and move them forward. I find sounding board assignments are really good when they're just getting started with information. An example I can share with you from my own class, one of the classes I teach is research methods, and I often tell students we're going to start with a sounding board assignment. Now, in the past, this sounding board assignment was done with peers. And the biggest challenge was peers didn't necessarily have the expertise in research methods to be a really good sounding board. Well, now I've shifted this to an AI assignment. And I tell students, I want you to start by telling the AI that you're working to generate a research proposal and that you do not want that to make a proposal for you, but you want the AI to serve as a sounding board. So ask me questions to get my ideas and help me narrow down a really good research topic and to turn that into a research question that I could then develop a proposal from. So students sit down with this prompt that kind of tells AI what they want it to do, and then AI asks them, what are you interested in? Why are you interested in that topic? What observations have you had about that topic that have led you to be interested in this? What do you anticipate or predict related to this? Now here's the fun part as an instructor. I don't have to feed AI all of those questions. I just have to tell in the prompt, the generative AI, that I want it to be a sounding board. I want it to query students to help them design the idea and to really develop that idea into a researchable question. And the more your prompt can lay out the objectives and the goal of what you want to do, the closer you're going to get to having a true sounding board experience. And on this assignment, the final submission from students is literally submit your chat. I just want to see the flow. I want to see the thought process. I'm not interested yet, we'll get there later, on what your final research question is. For now, I just want to see how your brain is working, how you're thinking about this topic in relationship to the theories and concepts in our course. And then the last idea I want to share, and this is also related to research. You can tell a lot of my classes are research-based, but this is using AI as a research deep dive, where students are going to do an in-depth exploration of a topic. I will say this works best on topics that there's a lot known about. As we know, most of the AI models have been trained with data prior to about 2022. Now, there are exceptions to that, but if we use that as a general rule of thumb, we usually can get really good output from the artificial intelligence. So if it's a general topic, even in psychology, social loafing, compliance, obedience, think of the big theories, concepts, and terms in your discipline. And you can use AI to say, let's do an intense exploration. Talk to me about what's known. Talk to me about what's not known. Where would I go to find that information? Who are the main theorists in this area? And they can use it as a research partner to do that deep dive to learn more about that topic. I will often even use this assignment in collaboration with the sounding board. So I'll start, and assignment 1 might be a research deep dive where I say, go learn what you can learn. Go find out what you can find out about this topic. And then the next assignment is a sounding board. Now take your observations, take what you've learned, and let's start thinking about how you could turn that into your own researchable question. Hopefully, you've picked up on the key theme of all these assignments. It's not about can students write it out. So you don't want to do these kinds of assignments and then tell students, okay, now write a paper about your experience, because now you're back to where we started. You're assessing their writing rather than their thinking. But if you can truly think about, what is it I want to see? Do I want to see their ability to ask questions? Do I want to see their ability to pivot? Do I want to see their ability to respond in a meaningful manner, not in a cohesive, fluent manner, but with true, deep thinking? Then AI might give you a possibility of that. If you're looking for somewhere to start, a really good starting place is to go to AI yourself and say, I want to do an assignment where students utilize AI so that I can assess their thinking. Give me some ideas. Tell it your discipline, tell it your student population. AI can really be a good brainstorming partner for you to think about how you can use AI in your own courses. When you're doing this though, the key things to keep in mind, those prompts are going to be fairly long. You want to be specific. You want to tell AI the purpose of what that assignment is doing, how you want it to interact with students, the kinds of things that you want from it. The more detailed you can be, the better it's going to be. And remember, you're embracing the conversational nature of AI. It's not an oral test. An oral test goes back to that, like, can I rote spit it out? This is about thinking. And thinking evolves and it changes and it adapts and it pivots. And that's what we want to use AI for, to play devil's advocate, to ask questions, to pivot with them and adjust as they're demonstrating their thinking. Now, one of the things faculty always tell me when I start talking about really assessing thinking is they say, well, how would I possibly assess this in a reliable manner? You know what? Ask the AI. AI is also really good at making rubrics. So tell it, whatever assignment you come up with, say, I want a rubric that truly assesses students' thinking, not their ability to meet assignment parameters, length of the paper, margins, whatever the writing is, to really think of the thinking. And then tell AI in a bulleted list, these are the pieces that are important to me. This is what I really want to assess. Help me design a rubric that assesses thinking independent of writing. Now, hopefully, this has got you thinking about how you can really look, not at students' writing, but at their understanding. Really, truly, almost going back to the roots of education and making it a social experience where we're not just assessing their final understanding and ability to communicate, but assessing the process and their ability to do a deep dive into our disciplines.
All right. And welcome everyone who just came in. What did we think about this presentation? Oh, well, Shelley, in this case, I apologize. For those who don't know me, I'm Tuan Dean. I am the CTE faculty coordinator. So it's good to see you, some wonderful, and let me be like I do in class, beautiful faces. Welcome, welcome. What do we think of, what are 2 takeaways from this? Oh, I do apologize. Hold on. I apologize. Let me sit down. All right. Let's get formal. Let's be like Jennifer Lopez. Let's get loud up in here. All right.
Well, I like refocusing on their thinking rather than the writing and watching it happen while we're doing it. What I did today is I have them write a small amount about what they're thinking, so then I'm seeing what they're thinking more than I'm seeing what they're writing.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the critical thinking part is important. That's our job to really be teaching critical thinking. In my law classes, we talk about the different issues surrounding political things that are going on, and or the Constitution, whatever it might be. It's not my job to espouse my political beliefs on any student. My job, college professors, is to talk about the different viewpoints, the different issues, let the students make up their own mind what they believe. And it's not our job to tell them what I think. It is my job to talk about, have them understand both sides of the issue, and then you guys make up your own mind as to how you feel about it.
You're absolutely correct. As a math professor, I always found critical thinking. And today I have my students in the ventures of the AI, they actually had to prompt AI for a question of how to design a rubrics for their students in using initiatives in the classroom. And I wanted them to get an idea of what they are going to be looking at their students and how they're going to be looking or grading their students and the interaction. So one of my students in this case said, well, what grade are we focusing on? I said, you decide. That's what you're going to be doing. You're future teachers. What grade are you going to be looking at? So in the class, I had several who started with 1st grade, some who did 5th grade, and then in the middle, the 3rd graders. They all divided up into groups. I wanted to hear what they were thinking. Right. My assessment today was, what were you thinking, or how you think about these things? Because I tell them, as a educator, you're going through these classes to become educators to teach students. But it's your thinking that's the most important. I think if your principal's going to ask you, what were you thinking of when you put that together? So you're right. It is about the critical thinking. I'm going to do it for my 102 class because they have to write a paper. That's the little arts math class, so they have to do a paper. So, but right now, it's more of a project. I should say paper, but it's more of a project. But I am going to be looking up how they think about it. Because in the rubrics that I wrote, they are allowed to use AI as a foundation to start the project. And not even,
Sorry. I think we used it a little bit today, I think. I thought this out. In the finance class, the students had to do ratio analysis and take 3 different companies from the same industry and compare the assets, the debt, cash ratios, and all of those things. And then eventually they'll get those ratios and they can make comparisons to how well one company's doing over another. Walmart to Costco to Target, for example. One group at those 3 companies. And the idea there was, okay, now you can see the metrics compared to the others in the same industry. Now it's up to management's job. For example, if your inventory turnover is too low in comparison to your competitors, that means that tells you something. Okay, now class, what does it tell you? It tells you, if you have a high turnover, you're having the right products on the shelf, the products are moving faster. Okay, which is what you want. If you have a low number, that means you might be stocking the wrong product and it's not turning over very quickly. So I can probably use them because I had to explain that more than I wanted to. Maybe I had them go to say, okay, rather than me telling you all the metrics, what it means, I could have used that and let them look, okay, the inventory turnover for Walmart was very high compared to Costco. What does that mean? I could use that. Right, Jim, what do you think?
Yeah. It's a very, Pete's baby walks the dog.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like one of my big jobs is to teach them how to use AI responsibly and effectively. Because they're not here for the degree, they're here for the education. So it's up to them to educate themselves. How they're going to do it. Here's this great tool that's going to help you. But now my job is to teach them how to use it. And so I like what you said about telling AI you don't want it to think for you. To actually say that too. They should have I think I should teach them a set of things to say to AI before they go to use it.
mm-hmm.
Like to clear the air. Okay, you're not going to be thinking for me. My goal is to get educated, not to get answers. Right? You just go with what you, and train the AI to do it. I think as soon as we can, we all need to get to ChatGPT 4 because there you can create your own GPTs. So now you can just build it to do what you want, and then you call on that one, and it's already trained to do each of these pieces. You never have to talk to it again and create a complex prompt to answer it, because you built it to do all that stuff. So we can build our own GPTs. So.
Okay, I don't quite understand that yet.
Yeah,
But I'm on your other workshop. When you got scheduled, I'll be at that.
I've got one that says, what do you want to do to the students? And they say, I don't know, buy a house. And then it generates a 5-step process for buying a house. Maybe the first step is save some money. Then I go to 3-person teams and say, what's some strategies for that? They come up with strategies, I feed it into the model, and it comes back and says, well, those strategies, they illustrate the following 5 psychological concepts. So it ties it back to psychology, whatever they're doing. Then I just go more detail or give me the next step. So 1 step at a time. And I've trained it to do that. At first it would run through all 5 steps and it goes, hey, how did I do it? And I said, well, you need to stop after the first step and wait for us to input, to give you back some feedback. So I, sentence by sentence, I trained it to take the flow I wanted it to take. It was a conversation.
Give it structure. We had a presentation yesterday from Pearson people, and they've got the AI built into their textbooks. Mm-hmm. And what's good, maybe you guys already know this, but what's good about it is it stays confined to the textbook, like if you're teaching marketing or whatever. Right. So it doesn't go out bounds all over the place. It stays confined to the material that we're studying, whatever chapter that might be.
Yeah, we just had a Blackboard presentation, was it this week, Monday?
Right.
And that's what he said. Within the AI within the Blackboard stays within education.
Right.
It's not all over the place, and it's, because some of privacy rules and all that stuff out there, and you're protected in there. But what I'm finding in my class as well.
We gotta go.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
There's a lot of reflection. So I have students, what they do up front is, like take some career assessments and things like that. And I've already had the portfolio at the end. It's more like a collage. And I've asked them to do like a summary. I usually ask them to do a summary, to present what they learned in the class in a collage like format,
Mhm.
and then give me the summary. So maybe I can rethink the summary, because I like what she said about assessing this says thinking versus writing. So I've been teaching this class over 20 years, so what has happened, at the beginning, it looked like it was just cut straight out of the occupation out of the handbook. So I look at these 20-page papers and things like that. I'm like, what? That's not, I couldn't tell what they had learned. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm ready. I've used AI to build my class more or less because it has really helped me to ask to get to what I need from them. But I don't know. I don't think I want to add right now don't want to add an AI to my class.
Well,
We heard from the presenter was that what explains, experiment first.
Mhm.
Anything you want to design, and how would you design the prompt and do it yourself.
Yeah.
But I know it's not as scary as
And I
a few
ask,
months ago.
I ask AI all the time,
Yeah.
this is what I really want to get done.
Yeah.
Got any ideas? How can I get that done?
Mhm.
This is what I want to get across to students, and these are the students, by the way. They're 18 to 24 years old, and they've been working all day before they come to class or whatever, I give it background and then say, now how can I get at what I'm trying to help them with? Give me 10 ideas, 8 of them will be useless, and 2 of them
I'm
will be.
telling you, because you ask the AI the question 3 times, but the third time you got what you want.
Yeah, hey, just keep asking until just keep going, give me 10 more ideas, and 2 of them will be good. I'm like, all right, the other 8?
Yeah.
And
Okay, then because that's what I've been doing.
Exactly, yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, I went through a symposium about that, and the presenter said, in this case for AI, it's about trial and error. That's exactly what it is. It doesn't know everything, and it's going to go step by step what you're doing. But he also stated in his talk as well too, never be afraid. If you're afraid,
Right.
It's not going to sense it because it's not a person. But you have to give the idea of prompting it. You're right. You have to prompt it to keep saying, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Break it down, break it down. And then he also used the analogy. Think about if you ever have your child for the first time. Not to say because you got twins. But your child for the first time says, "Oh, what is this?" And you're like trying to explain it, but then, well, I don't get it. You're breaking it down. You're breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down. That's the analogy he used. And several people were like, "Oh, I never thought of that."
Or I didn't ask the right question the first time. Mm-hmm. And so,
Or you did ask the question. It just wasn't the response that you were looking for. Because any presenter will say that you never mess up when you ask a question. It's just AI doesn't. It's only going to read the question and formulate what it thinks you're asking, but it can't read you because it doesn't know exactly. So yeah, it's all about just breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down. And
It's fun.
what happened?
It's fun.
Yes. Especially when Bill brought up in regards to William.
it's all of it.
Brought up in regards to Pearson. Pearson, all of you will be here for the roundtable discussion about how AI is used in their publishing company, along with McGraw-Hill. They will be here as well too. We'll present over next month. Yeah, it's a lot. AI has blown up faster than any other technology that came out, and
Oh, yeah, because it's programming itself,
it is.
so it's going at computer speeds.
It
Yeah, the
is.
podcasts I listen to are all like, well, that's so out of date, that was like last week. This week, on Wednesday, what's gonna happen is, it's crazy. And I took a whole class with Vanderbilt on prompting, just on prompting. Most of that is now not helpful because you can make your own GPT, and I'm just training it, and it's asking me, am I doing it right? And so I want you to do more of this. And so I'm having a conversation, and it's creating itself. We can have our own GPTs do all kinds of stuff. It's exciting. So everyone should have ChatGPT 4, and Shelley's gonna figure out how to get try to pay for it. It's only $20 a month, but so is Netflix.
There's an AI right now that is building homes.
In what?
There's an AI that came out like about 4 weeks ago. It's actually building homes.
Building homes.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It's whatever how it was put in there. It's building the house. I saw the video. I was like, oh my god. But the announcer said, would you live in it because it has certain cracks in it? But the AI doesn't see that. You were told the AI to build a home. It
Right.
built it, but there's cracks in it. So, but that's what it was just funny. I'm like, oh my god, now they moved into building with AI.
Yeah. If when I have useful prompts, I put them in a Word document. So I've got a few Word documents with useful, like if they're long prompts, then I just copy paste them into there. So if there's some specific thing I'm used to having it do, I know I've got a Word document I can go to and just copy the prompt and plop it in there and then to retype it. But with the custom ones, you can just attach files. With ChatGPT 4, you can just attach files. So you could have a Word document that has, whenever I interact with you, these are a bunch of things I want you to do. And you can just attach that file to every chat you have. And it'll just read that and know, oh, this is the environment we're in. Now, it'll read it. Because I've graded a bunch of papers that way. I put my instructions for the paper, my rubric, and 2 examples of great papers. And then I loaded student paper in there. I loaded a student paper in there. And give me 100 words of constructive feedback in 10 seconds. It's like, reads through it all. You guys hear some ideas. Now my feedback is like twice as good and takes half as much time. So, and then I said to it, how could I do this better? And it goes, dude, you don't have to put just one paper in there. You can give me your whole class. And I went, never thought of that.
Really?
So I threw
Who told you that?
ChatGPT. So I threw the whole class in there and I put all the papers for the whole class in. It didn't occur to me.
Did you scan it in there?
They're PDFs.
Oh, PDFs.
And on ChatGPT 4, you can attach Word docs and PDFs and pictures. You can attach a lot of stuff, and it'll just take it. It can read through to heck with Adobe. It can just read right through a PDF. We can't copy paste out of those things, but Chat can somehow. Oh, he's reading it.
It can grade. ChatGPT can grade. What the presenter was saying, do you want it to be grading your assessments?
Sure.
The decision you have to
We own the output, so when it comes out, it's up to us to then take what it did and turn it into something useful for the student.
make.
Time saver, yeah, but we're not going anywhere. We're lucky because we're in education, and the humans are so important in our environment. We need the humans. Some other environments are taking a hit right now. The worst one I heard in a podcast is writing. If you're in that occupation of writing, it's like 30% shrinkage already in the writing.
Yes.
But that's why the actors and writers were on strike for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because they.
And that kind of writing. Yeah. So we're gonna have to readjust a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
AI,
readjustment.
AI can actually write that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Mhm.
So then when they wanted to go to court and battle, it just went to AI and said, what do we say in court to battle for ourselves? I'm sure they did. What kind of stuff should we say?
How about you? I apologize.
So the way I've been using it, and what she said that was interesting to me is the dynamic back and forth that you can do with it. The aspect of the vis voce that you've lost from the medieval university, where you're able to ask real time to assess a student. And I've actually been using this in class. I'm teaching a Phil 101 class that I've arranged as half of a debate class. And I have one of the things I've had students do, and AI is actually quite bad at this part, stringing together reasoning. So if you play ChatGPT by voice like chess, it'll make so many mistakes. It gets up between all like move behind. But what I found if you're doing trying to get it to create a debate, it'll sometimes have the characters talk past one another. And so I had students go in and I said, okay, so I had everybody generate a debate, an argument. Maybe it's about whether postal mail should be completely free or whether it should be completely subsidized, or
Yeah.
completely commercial. And so we get these prompts. I take a picture of it, so I know what they have, and then they go and they edit it and improve it on the basis of different techniques that we've learned in class, argumentative.
So you have chat play personas, like, let's have an argument between
Yeah,
this
right.
person and that person?
Yep.
Yeah.
Give them the positions and name this one Alice, this one Bob, or something like that, whatever you want.
Because I did that in psychology, I'll say, let's have an argument between Freud and Skinner and
Oh, yeah,
Maxwell,
yeah.
and we'll just have them discuss some issue.
Yeah.
And then it comes out like out of the starting blocks, like it's Freud talking, and then Skinner comes in and says, no, you idiot. That's not how it works.
Yeah, so I did that for a philosophy of science class I'm teaching online. So the students are supposed to do research on a particular, like typically, I mean, all the best philosophers of science are past. So I say, tell ChatGPT or whatever, AI, pretend that you are so-and-so, and then have a conversation with it. And sometimes it gives
Yeah.
kind of weird answers, but it can actually have creative insights, it seems like.
It's been helpful to me too if I go, explain general relativity to me as if I was 5. And then it explains it like I'm a 5-year-old, and then now as if I'm 13 and now 20. It builds the knowledge, and by the time I get to 20, I'm like, that's how that works. Now I get it after all these years.
Yeah.
I needed to start at 5 when it comes to general relativity.
Really?
Yeah, I did. You're a mathematician. You understand it. You understand it. I don't understand it.
Kelly has a background in math too?
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
You're math?
Oh, yeah, she used to teach math.
How about that? I did not know that.
I'm sorry. Right?
Yeah, I remember it.
What did you use it for in class?
Well, for today, it was, for today they had to design a lesson plan using manipulatives and using grades 3, 3, and 5. So they had to ask ChatGPT of how to design a lesson plan, because we had talked about the geometry and what geometry they'll be looking at. They had to choose a subject of geometry, so some of them chose like just looking at shapes, and others talked about how to design manipulatives to look at other figures. So they asked ChatGPT how to design the lesson plan for a first, third, and fifth grader. But it was interesting because they were looking at the difference and saying, ChatGPT said, this is how you start off. You're right, it said start off with this level using geometry. But when they got to third grade, it added more concepts. And said, yeah, but it didn't look at the previous concepts that you taught for the first grade. So they had, because it doesn't know the Common Core practice. So therefore, they had to integrate that into that. So it was interesting to see that the ChatGPT went from the first to third to fifth, but it didn't connect it because it doesn't know Common Core practices.
And are those written somewhere, Common Core practices? So you could feed those in the chat first. Yeah.
But the 6 methods, the 6 principles of teaching mathematics, one of them is assessment, the other one is learning. ChatGPT didn't know that. So, right, those are things on Common Core they just didn't know about. But those are things that when they were designing, I wanted to hear their output of it, because I had it designed for groups of the first, third, and fifth graders. They had a teacher, a writer, and a principal.
Nice.
So the principal was the one that went back and said, did you follow this principle? Did you follow this principle, this principle, this principle, which is the 6 principles of teaching mathematics. The writer was the person who's writing everything down, whereas the teacher saying, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to use this initiative because ChatGPT said we should do this. So they had to redesign what was said into their lesson plan.
Cool.
It was, because I love the way she said it was me looking more of the critical thinking rather than what ChatGPT said. I want to know how you, because I teach math for elementary educators. Math, let's just say that. But for this class, it was Math 116 for math elementary educators. So they're the ones who are going to be our future teachers. So that's why I was saying that we're going to use it as a guide to give you a foundation of how to design the lesson plan, because we had talked about the geometry in class, we talked about all the things they need to know about the geometry, but now I wanted them to build a lesson plan for their students, because that's the
Yeah.
grade they're going to be teaching.
Nice. Yeah, I find it doesn't, like used to be on the crew in college rowing, and I hated it because it was like precision, and I was part of the machine. So I'm more like a racquetball guy. You ever play racquetball where you can hit the back ball and it's still gonna go and hit the front? It's like anything goes anywhere. That's what AI is to me. We have no need to get this right. We just need to start doing stuff and see what happens. Throw it at the wall and see what comes back. You know?
Right.
I love that environment. We're just try everything. Not gonna hurt anybody.
And you're right, and I think where our colleagues in this case come about, some of them thinking this is a fake. It's not. It's coming much stronger and faster than anything. I mean, it is, one presenter in this case, when Jim came to our department meeting, how'd you say I was, the Seattle or AI?
Oh, you're the aficionado. Yeah. He's our expert.
Yeah, my colleague was like, Twan, you know that much? Yes. But thank you for Jim opening that door. But nevertheless, I said, yes, there's a lot of things that, after you left the meeting, it came up and saying there's a lot of things that AI can do. I said, for example, I had a student over my summer class, wrote his paper using AI. Now, I'm not saying it was bad. What I'm saying was the AI did not prompt him to correctly answer the questions I gave him, because I used AI to create those questions. So one of the questions in this case that he had to get my approval because he was using statistics to look at a study of shoe sizes. AI gave him a graph of movies.
A graph of movies?
Yeah. A line graph of movies over time. So I confronted him and said, but your approval was shoe sizes.
Yeah.
And he told me he did use ChatGPT. I said, okay, so you prompted to do and say what? Just give a graph, and that's exactly what it did. It gave him a graph.
Give me a graph. You're lucky to give him a giraffe.
Well,
A picture of a giraffe.
he actually had two others that didn't match either. And the writing, which in this case I challenged him on because he stated that he used ChatGPT because he needed something to turn in because he didn't want to fail the course. But yet, I said, here's a reference I don't know nothing about because it doesn't exist.
Yeah. So another hallucination.
So he copied everything and directly put it into the paper.
There's a lesson. He's learning that that's not going to teach him critical thinking. He's not going to learn from that. You can't hand your mind over. You had this forever, right, with calculators? It became that same tension, right? Because the calculator will do it for you, but what are you learning?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, math really had a crisis there, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had it when you had apps come out, and we learned that some certain apps in this case, yeah, you can point your phone to it and it'll tell you the answer.
Yeah.
However, there's 3 apps on the market that my student found out while he was taking his exam. It wasn't correct.
Oh, that's a problem.
Well, it was a problem because I wanted the steps of how to do the problem.
Yeah.
The app did the steps, but incorrectly.
There you go.
So
Nice.
the student can understand, well, I wrote down everything like I said. Yeah, you did. A, the problem. Z, the answer. Everything in between, I don't know how you got there. I said, so if you were walking down the street, you went in several different directions before you got to this destination.
My leg went in over there, my arms went in over there.
Yes, down a hill, up a hill, in the hole, and you climbed out of it, which was 6 feet long. So I have no idea. And he couldn't understand what he said. And I gave him credit for it in the fact that he was honest. He said he used an app to do the problem because he wasn't sure how to approach it. Okay. Now you realize apps don't always give you the correct answer.
I love writing quizzes with it. So I write fill in the blank quizzes and just give it a list of 12, 15 concepts. and say, write a quiz, and you can't use those concepts, you can't use those words.
Mhm.
So you have to write around the concept and then leave a blank there for students to fill it in. Then I give it to them as teams in class, and it just generates discussion like crazy. The three of them are like, figure, how do we fill? And then I'll say to chat, make it more ambiguous. And it makes it so there's a lot of answers for each
Mhm.
question, and that generates even more discussion. So I titrate the ambiguity. We'll make it a little less ambiguous than that, a little more than that, okay, we got it right there. And then today I had to write one that's in the form of a story. So fill in the blanks, but it's in the form of a 300-word story
Mhm.
based on Taylor Swift's lyrics. And I thought I was going to run into a copyright problem. It went right out there and started grabbing her lyrics and put them in from all kinds of different songs. It
I'm
was
glad
great.
you opened that door. I was so teased you about
Because I'm a Swiftie.
Yes.
But, yeah, so we'll see. Maybe the school's going to get like severely sued or something.
Well, that is,
And she'll get both of our dollars.
well, that'll be the conversation where, like our presenter's gonna come in, our institution, Triton has to put down whatever rules and regulations of teaching and learning with using AI.
We need an AI policy.
We
But I was
do.
saying that to Campy, and she's like, I don't think we're ready for it yet. I'm thinking the opposite. We're behind the eight ball. We gotta get an AI policy.
We're actually behind.
But I don't know how to convince her. I better ask AI how to convince her.
That could work. That could work. But you're right, we're actually behind in that because there are institutions, not a lot, but there are institutions now, especially one in Florida that was talked about in higher learning, that they already have a policy.
Yeah. At Loyola, where I went to grad school in IPS over at Loyola, their policy is when you use API or AI for a paper, you need to reference it.
Mhm.
So it just needs to be in your list of references. This part came from AI, like any other reference.
Mhm.
That's not like a valid citation because it generates something new. I mean, so it's just.
Yeah, and it might hallucinate.
It's just a note, yeah, it's not really even a reference.
Yeah.
Right. And
You know-
MLA and EPA are actually fighting because of those reasons, because you're right,
Yeah.
it's not valid because you can prompt the same question again, and it'll give a different answer.
Necessarily, but references also make mistakes, so
True.
I love it. We're opening up all kinds of new gray areas. Yes, things that can't be answered.
That is true. That is true. Yes, sir. Sandra, sorry. No. Well, that is our time, everyone. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. We will have a roundtable discussion coming up in April. It is after our presentation from our presenter coming in. His name is Chuck, who's going to come in and talk about how AI is being used or how you can use it more efficiently in the classroom and open up any and all questions for discussion. I think the presentation is like an hour and a half.
Now I'm
Because
doing a
DePaul
CT.
University is huge on it. In fact, if you did, the University of Wisconsin actually has a degree in AI now.
There's a bunch of those. I've seen a bunch of those.
Yeah, they are popping up, getting a degree in AI. You can also get a certificate, which I have, in AI. It's under Course A, which is an online certification for
Coursera.
Coursera. Is it Coursera?
Yeah, Coursera.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that now. I got Triton to pay for it. Did you?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I got a yearly Coursera. It was $530, and Triton paid for it.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should talk because you can get all 7,000 courses then,
Oh,
and you
okay.
get the paid version.
Well, I just went in to do the certification. So, I mean, they do have a lot of courses on there that you can take. I'm trying to think if there was another one that I saw as well too that was sent to me. There's a certificate that you can get for AI teaching and learning, and it's offered through the University of California.
Yeah, there's, I think, I don't know how many certificates I've seen lately in Coursera. A bunch of different ones. The course I took was through Vanderbilt. It was like 18 hours online. It was just on the topic of prompting.
Right.
It was 18 hours on how to prompt.
Okay, well, that's why you give such detailed information when you start talking about AI. One time, I came to one of your
Yeah.
workshop. And you kept on, talked about chat, and then you just kept on going and going, and you asked one question, then you asked another question with 5 or 6 sentences.
Yeah, you just go back and forth. The, and so if anybody, if I can be useful and come to your office and we can play with AI together, just let me know.
Why not go to
The
your
whole thing
office?
is so
We
fun.
can.
Jim is your man.
You come to my
Do it
office.
virtually.
You come to my office. You and I should brainstorm. We should put our heads together and try and have like a miniature thing we're trying to accomplish, and then fuse our brains on how we could